Welcome back to the C.T.W. podcast. I'm your host, Doron Quizwin, and I thank you guys for tuning in again. In this episode, I want to talk to you about the seasons of life. We all have at times been in certain seasons of life, and either we have not realized it or we just were not aware of the change in seasons. Most of the time when a season changes in the natural world or just how nature is, we kind of know winter, spring, summer, fall. We kind of know the times and the dates. So when I'm talking about a season, I'm talking about when everyday life and when things happen in life, how times and seasons of life change, how you may grow and develop, how you may mature, how one thing that fits you in one season of your life may not fit you in this season, how with certain things we will do and certain things we will tolerate in one season of our life. Now we will no longer tolerate because we're no longer in that season. And this is one of the messages that I'm most excited about because it's it is a podcast that is going to be timeless. And what I mean by that is regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of your intellectual capabilities, this is one of the podcasts that you can go back and watch regardless of where you are. This podcast will be able to give you insight, understanding, and be able to just shed some light on bringing awareness to the season of life that you're currently in, or being able to identify what season of life that you're in. The thing about understanding what season of life you're in is that is something that you have to figure out on your own. Sometimes you can go through certain things. Sometimes you can identify what season of life that you're in, and sometimes you just have to wait until you're already in the middle of the season to figure out what season you're in. But either way, I think this is something that will help married people. This is something that will help people in relationships about to get married, people in school, people who are looking for jobs, people are going through health crisis, people that are going through certain things in life, regardless if life is very good for you right now, regardless if life is bad or life is neutral. This is one of these podcasts that you can watch regardless of what season you're in, because it gives you hope to understand that everything in life is a season. And so I have a verse here, and it's Ecclesiastes 3:1. And it says, there is a season, a appointed time for everything, a time for every delight, an event or purpose under heaven. And so that verse literally lets us know that there is a time and a season for everything that is happening in life. So there is a time and a season for us to be broke, not have any money. There's a time and a season of life where we have money. There's a time and season of life where we may get sick, whether that sickness is very critical or whether that sickness is very minuscule. There is a time and season of life where you and your husband or wife may be fighting and going through seasons of disagreements and arguments where you may not like each other. Then there will be times and seasons of life where you go through things and you guys are the best of both. You guys are the best of friends, and nothing can separate you. That verse literally lets us know there is a season for everything. And I think when we don't understand that life is about seasons, that your entire life will go through multiple seasons and multiple changes, I think that's when we as people start to get very frustrated. And when we do not identify the season of life that we're in, it gives us a lot of anxiety. It makes us very overwhelmed. It brings a lot of agitation because we as people, we are naturally curious. We desire to know. We want to get ahead. We want to be better. We want the best. We want to have the upper hand, whether just to be better for ourselves or to be have the upper hand on someone else. And so when we're going through seasons and situations in life where we just can't seem to figure out what we're going through and why this season of our life is going the way that it's going, it brings a lot of agitation and frustration to us personally. I think that's something we need to understand from reading this verse is that this verse literally lets us know that there is a season for everything on the earth. There is a season and a time for everything. And so most people don't even understand that what they normally give up in, what they normally quit, what they normally don't finish, that is just a season of life. So right now, if you're watching this and you're going through a very hard time in life, you're just going through a tough season. That season is not designed to kill you. It can kill you. It can take you out. And what I mean by kill you or take you out is that it can prevent you from accomplishing the goal to further your purpose in life, to further allow you to accomplish your goals, to allow you to obtain your desires. It can kill your courage. It can kill your confidence. It can kill how you see yourself, not as a form of physical death, but in forms of, it could be a mental one, it could be a spiritual one. And so understanding that if you're in a tough season of life, that is just a season. That season will not last forever. And most of the time when we're going through certain seasons in life, we feel like it will last forever because of the magnitude and how it makes us feel. And so what ends up happening is that we tend to abandon the particular season that we're in because we don't think it's very favorable for us to go through it. And I think that's something that we need to kind of step back, and something that we need to identify in the area of life where we are currently, is asking yourself, what season am I currently in? Am I in a season where God has me isolated? Am I in a season where I am in community? Am I in a season where I am in partnership with someone? Am I in a season where I need to be studying for school? Am I in a season where I need to be job seeking? Am I in a season where I'm learning how to be disciplined over my finances? Understanding what season you're in will be able to allow you to put a plan together to navigate whatever season you're in of life. I think when we don't know, or when we don't identify what season we're in, and we're not able to put a plan together to be able to continue to move forward, I think that's what causes a lot of us to end up quitting and giving up. When we don't see a way out, when we don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, when we feel hopeless and when we feel lost, it creates a lot of despair for us. It creates a lot of just uncertainty. It creates a lot of insecurity. And that is one of the quickest ways for any person, anyone, to not accomplish any goals. Proverbs 23:7, it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so that verse literally lets us know is how you think about yourself will let you know what you believe about yourself. So if you believe that if you're in a season that's very tough right now and you believe that you're not going to make it out, that's going to be an indication of how you're going to go about the season. If you have hope and if you believe that you're going to make it out and you think about yourself as an overcomer and a conqueror and that you're more than enough, you will have a better chance of succeeding in a hard season than most people that do not think about themselves in a way that they can overcome it. I think that's something that needs to be talked about and needs to be explained regardless of what age you're in, whether you're a young kid that plays sports and right now you're not getting a lot of time on the team, you're not getting a lot of reps, whatever it is, whether you're young or old. Understanding that is just a season. Sit back and wait your turn and be able to endure this season and go through the development process for this season that you're in. I think most people look at hard seasons, they look at chaotic seasons, they look at unfavorable seasons, and they look at it as a way of God punishing them for not doing something right in a previous season. While that can be true, sometimes you going through a hard season is God saying, I am developing you so that when you get out of this hard season, you will have the necessary foundation to be able to endure and to be able to go out there and to be able to continue to be propelled forward. Most of the time we look at hard seasons and we think that is God being very unfair to us. And sometimes we need to understand that it's not that God is being unfair. we have to understand that life is life, and sometimes life allows certain things to be hard. Sometimes you have a domino effect of certain things, one thing after another, a family death, and sometimes you might lose your job, and then your car might break down, and the next thing you know, you're no longer in that relationship. And so that is just lifing. And so you have to understand is that you being able to overcome and you being able to endure hard seasons is what will give you the necessary trust, not only from God, but also in yourself to say, I've overcome harder things. I've overcome things that I didn't know how I was going to make it out. I didn't know if I was going to make it. I didn't see a way at the end of the tunnel, but I still ended up making it out. And if you're in a season of life where everything is fine, everything is good, everything is coping steady, and everything is going the way that you want it to go, understand that that is a season. This thing about seasons does not skip anyone. It's not to say, oh, just because someone is in a season of life where everything is up, they're never going to experience a season of life where things are down. Just because someone is in a season of life where things are down doesn't mean they're not going to experience a season of life where things are up. If you are able to identify the season of life that you're currently in, being able to identify and being able to not necessarily being able to take a hold of it and accept it, that will be the quickest way for you to overcome the season of life that you're in. You will be able to now, one, fortify your mind and build your mind up in a way that will allow you to be able to say, you know what, I'm in this season of life. I don't find it very favorable. I don't like it. But God, I trust you. One. Two, I am able to overcome because I am filled with the Holy Spirit. I've been given strength. God has allowed me to become I am an overcomer. And then me, I have the characteristic traits, the personality traits, and I have these traits about myself that will not allow me to give up, back down, give in. And so understanding that regardless of what season you're in, if you're in a season where you continually get doctor's reports that are not very favorable, understanding that that is just a season. Understand that regardless of where you are currently, the seasons of life change. Just like the natural seasons of life change, Mother Nature goes from winter to spring, from spring to summer, from summer to fall, understanding that the seasons of life will change. And so just like the natural seasons of life, it will change. The thing about it is that if you do not figure out a way, and if you do not put a plan together, and if you do not become aware that this is a season, you will majority of the time you will give up in a season of life that was actually meant to prepare you for your purpose. You will give up in a season of life that was actually meant for you to be an overcomer so that you can break generational curses for your family. You will actually give up in a season of life where you were actually called. God actually called you and anointed you to do a particular thing. But because that season of life was so hard for you, you end up abandoning the anointing and the calling God has on your life. You end up giving up in a season of life because you got so tired, sick and tired of continually getting negative reports. You give up on something God has already opened doors for you to do and doors for you to overcome and to accomplish because you got tired of continually getting the answer no. You got tired of continually getting turned down. You got tired of continually them giving you negative feedback. And so understanding that seasons of life, regardless of where you are, seasons of life are not meant to take you out. They are meant to some seasons of life are not necessarily meant to take you out. Some seasons of life are meant to prepare you. Some seasons of life is to make sure that your foundation is strong enough so that when you go to the level that you've been praying for, that you don't have any cracks and crevices for life, for the enemy, for anyone to get in and to be able to make you, to break you so that you're no longer stable. And when you don't identify where you are in the season, it's something that will continually frustrate you. You could be in a season of life where, and I'm just going to use married people. If you could be in a season of life where you just got married and You are in the honeymoon stage. You are in the stage where everything is adorable. Everything is lovey-dovey. You guys are great. Then you guys could be in a season of life where you guys are kind of distant and disconnected. If you don't identify sooner than later, what season you guys are in, most of the time, that distant and disconnected season will create a lot of division between the two of you. And this is where the enemy, this is where life starts to infect relationships. This is life starts to infect each individual. This is where life starts to infect our minds. This is where things start to get thrown at each other, because now you're starting to think you made the wrong decision. You picked the wrong partner. Should you have gotten married? Is this the right person? Is there someone better? And so now what tends to happen is, because you did not properly identify the season of life that you were in, now you're looking across the table, or you're looking around trying to figure out, did you make the right decision? Not understanding that people have to understand that when you identify the season of life that you're in, that you will now be able to better navigate where you are, and it will give you hope. It will give you confidence. It will give you reassurance to let you know, I am where I'm supposed to be. I have a verse, and it's 2 Corinthians 7, 7:17. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, it might be 1 Corinthians 7:17. In the Message version, let's see. And it says this, 1 Corinthians 7:17, the Message version. It says, do not be wishing you were someplace else or with someone else. Where you are right now is where you are right now is God's place for you. Live and obey and love and believe right there. God, not your marital status, defines your life. Do not think I'm being harder on you than others. I give this same counsel to all churches. So this is Paul talking to the church at Corinth, and he's literally letting them know, like, hey, where you are currently is where you're supposed to be. Not over there, not to the left, not to the right. Where you are currently is where you're supposed to be. That place that you're in is God's place for you. And so most of the time when you don't identify where you are, what tends to happen is that because it's naturally in us, we think that anytime something is going wrong, that's not of God. And we think if it's not of God, we need to get out. And not understanding that most of the time, the situations that we call the devil are not actually the devil. Sometimes the situations that we're calling the devil is just life. Sometimes the situations we're calling the devil is God actually trying to mold us and build us and make us stronger so that we'll be better prepared for what we actually prayed for. Most of the time we think that the thing that we pray for does not come with pain, or we feel as if though when you walk with God, you will not endure pain. And I think that's something that needs to be explained in churches. I think that's something that needs to be explained by people, and people need to do a better job of explaining, because we think that even though God put two people together, God gave you the confirmation that that's your husband or that's your wife, you now think that you guys will never get into disagreements. You guys think that just because God has anointed you to be together, you guys think that now the enemy will not try to mess with you. You guys think that now just because God has put you guys together, even if you're not married, if you guys are partners, that the enemy will not try everything he can to get you to disobey God's will. You have to understand that just because God anointed it does not mean that you're exempt from attacks. It does not mean you're exempt from things agitating you and frustrating you. We have something called life. And so we have to understand that life is still a factor. God will not disobey. God will not rewire. God will not undo what he put in place. And he put some laws, some principles, and some things that go along with nature. He put those things in place. And so we have to understand that it's not that God is not omnipresent and omnipotent, and he's not a superhero. He can't do and can't change. It's just God will not dishonor his word. And so there are certain things he set in place. And if he does not allow those things to do what they're supposed to do, what ends up happening is that now he becomes a liar. And God is not a liar. And so that's the thing people have to understand. It's not God can't do this. It's not that God can't do that. You have to understand that God looks at situations differently than we look at situations. He looks at situations and says, hey, you look at a situation and you say, this is causing me a lot of pain. God looks at the situation and says, this is causing them to do a lot of prayer. You look at a situation and say, this is really getting on my nerves. God is saying, this is really bringing them closer to me. You're looking at a situation and saying, my spouse gets on my nerves. God is saying, your spouse is getting that out of you, what you wouldn't allow me to get out of you. And so most people look at situations and seasons of life and say, oh, wow, this is very unfavorable. This can't be of God because of what I'm going through. And God is looking at it and saying, no, you're just in a season of life right now where I have you having to rely on me for financial stability. You're just in a season of life right now where I have you relying on me for health and healing. You're in a season of life right now where I have you relying on me to fill that void instead of your partner. You're in a season of life right now where I have you relying on me instead of that job. And so that's the thing that people have to understand, that the quicker that you identify, or the quicker that you're aware and identify the season of life that you're in, and put together a way to continue to get out of it and continue to go through it, you'll be able to navigate any season of life, regardless of what age you are, regardless of your race, regardless of gender. Seasons of life is what will determine. Seasons of life happen to everybody. The thing about it is that everybody does not endure the seasons of life. Everybody does not endure hardship. Everybody not well anyway. Everybody endures hardship, but most people don't endure hardship well. Most people don't handle crisis well. Most people don't handle being broke well. Most people don't handle having a lot of money well. Most people can't handle certain seasons of life, and not being able to handle those seasons of life will be a determining factor whether or not your foundation will uphold or whether your foundation will crumble. And I think that's something that understanding this podcast is, that life is about seasons. Every season of life, there is a time for every single thing. And so the quicker you understand that life, where you are currently, is a season, the quicker you'll be able to put your faith in the proper places, to be able to put a plan together for you to prevail through the season that you're in, and to be able to allow you to have hope and confidence again, not only in yourself, but also in God, to know that He'll allow you to have a way out. So I hope this helps you guys. If it does, comment down below and let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.